Hello and welcome to another video. So this is in response to a question that was sent to me by Chris. And Chris was talking about how other people can be so quick to judge those with alcohol or other drug problems. And of course the obvious conclusion is that the person behaving that way is just being selfish. And I can understand why people would reach that conclusion, and it certainly does look incredibly selfish when someone is, wasting their life with alcohol and hurting other people just so they can drink alcohol or whatever they're using. And I did some incredibly hurtful things, during my own drinking, especially during the early years. I remember living with a girl and spending all of our money on alcohol, and we had no money for food. I remember selling all of our cassette tapes so I could buy more alcohol. And what I would say about all of that, see, when I think about selfishness, to me, there's always a sense of willfulness in it. That it's a clear decision. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to be selfish here. When we're caught up in an addiction, I don't feel that same willfulness is there. It's almost like being at the mercy of something, being at the mercy of our mind, and we end up doing things that we would never dream of doing, that we would never do without alcohol being in the picture. And that was certainly the case for me. I never did anywhere near the bad stuff that I did when I was kind of under the sway of alcohol, ever, not even close. So, something is kind of happening there. And also that when we're in the midst of an addiction problem, our lives tend to be pretty overwhelming, probably because of the effects of the alcohol and all of that. But that, it can be a very incredibly stressful situation for everyone involved. And the way we tend to react to stress or to being overwhelmed is to just put more of the focus on ourselves. It's like, and there's studies into this that shows when people are overwhelmed, they're far less likely to think of other people. It's almost like they're incapable of thinking of other people. It's like all of their resources are now being directed towards themselves as almost like a survival thing. And again, I don't necessarily see that as a choice. It's just like how it happens. So we think far less of how our behavior is going to affect other people. We just, it's almost like, I remember almost being incapable of seeing that I just knew what I needed and I needed to get it. And that was the only thing. And that's the thing about the nature of craving. See, craving, when it completely takes over your thinking. Particularly when an addiction is involved, that it completely, and it's like all you can think about. So when I would wake up, it was all I could think about. It was the only thing appearing in my mind. I need a drink, I need a drink, I need a drink, I need a drink. And the only way I could get rid of that intrusive thought was to drink. And it would be so it was kind of like an alarm going off inside your head, and you just want to shut it up. And until you do, it's like everything else is unimportant. The things that would normally be so important to you and your ethics and all of that stuff, it kind of flies out the window, because all you know is this alarm is going off. You can't ignore the alarm, or it appears you can't. And so the only thing you want to do is turn that off, and then worry about the consequences, and then worry about what's right or what's wrong. And that's really like what it's like. And it's I think every human has been the victim, at least some periods of their life, of these very, very intrusive thoughts. But with an addiction, it just intensifies and is all consuming. And it leads us on a path that we would never otherwise go. And remember now, I'm not trying to justify anything here, and I'm certainly not trying to say, well, people should get off the consequences of a behavior. We have to accept the consequences of our behavior. I'm just saying this as a means to furthering understanding. That, and particularly, the sense that it's not, it's not necessarily willfulness that's going on. That the behavior isn't being driven by simply the person deciding, well, I'm just going to be bad now. I'm just going to be selfish now. I'm just going to hurt the people around me. That it's coming from somewhere else. It's coming from a more of a survival thing. And there is nothing, I don't think there's anything worse in this world than feeling overwhelmed by your own mind. That when it's like your own mind is working against you and undermining you. When your own mind is coming up with these really powerful drives to get you to do something, even when you realize you don't really want to do that anymore. It's not a simple thing, so over the years, through the practices I've done, I've become much better at developing that ability to say, just see things come and not react, not react to them. But when we're in the midst of addiction, we don't have that we don't have that level of awareness. And so one of the Thai teachers, One Pa Tien, he would just describe our awareness as like a cat. And he would use the analogy, or is it a metaphor? The analogy of a cat chasing a mouse. And so when we're in the midst of addiction, it's like we're a tiny kitten. And the rat is huge. And we're trying to, as a tiny kitten, trying to control that rat. And it's impossible. Like, if we try to go after the rat will just destroy us. And that's what it's like in the midst of addiction. And it's only by developing our awareness, by increasing our awareness, that we become much better at dealing with those kind of thoughts. But that's fine once you've done that. But when you haven't done it, I mean, it's like you're kind of stuck for a while. And it's like our own minds are too powerful for us. And so and this is why people need help to stop usually, or until they can kind of develop that awareness or that ability, or at least get enough time away from the addiction that those thoughts start to win, that those thoughts lose their power. So I just wanted to put this video just to answer Chris's question, and I think this is something that's important for all of us, that when we look at somebody struggling, that it's usually not as simple as we might like to think. That it's not just people deciding to be bad or deciding to be selfish. That it's always more complicated than that. And to just and this is what compassion is all about. Actually, compassion is this as we start to understand ourselves more, and understand the nature of our mind, and how easy our mind can trick us and fool us and all of that kind of stuff, that by knowing that, we're able to kind of understand that for other people as well, and that things are not black and white, things are not simple answers tend to be wrong answers, as far as I can see. There's usually much more complex going on, and to just kind of consider that when looking at people who are struggling. It doesn't mean we have to put up with their nonsense. I mean, there comes a time when we may have to walk away, but that doesn't mean we have to lose compassion. And it's like one of the things I mentioned. So some of this stuff I touched on in that video about how can we help someone struggling with an alcohol problem. Kind of fits in with this. And one of the things I was saying there is that I think it is important that we were able to see see potential in other people. That we're able to see that that person really has the capacity to be something wonderful. We all do. And if we can't see that, if we see people as just selfish and And if we see them as being useless or whatever, I mean, that's not going to help them. And if our intention is to help them, you know, we need to kind of change that. So thanks for listening. If you want to help me, I'd be, you know, if you could subscribe to the channel, that'd be really useful, or give a like. Any questions, please fire them my way. I love, you know, and I'll make more videos as people send questions. And thank you for that question, Chris, a very important one. And if you want to do some coaching with me, I'll leave details about that below. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you again.